There's a book called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, and it talks about and emphasizes all the things we need to avoid in order to find success. And today's topic is no different. We are covering and talking about all the things that we need to avoid as realtors. I have count them, 8 things that you need to avoid as a realtor. Those of you tuning in live, thank you for watching live. Please put your questions in the chat box. Those of you watching the replay, feel free to post them on YouTube and we will happily answer whatever we can. At the end of this as well, we have an event coming up that you do not want to miss out on. This is the biggest, the best, the coolest, the most awesome event that we have done in quite some time. And it's coming up in just a few days. And so I want to premiere and tease with that just a little bit. But for today and for this topic, we are talking about the 8 things you need to avoid as a realtor. I could easily talk about, hey, lead generation is really important and lead conversion is super important and having a pipeline and having your scripts right. We could talk about all that, but I'd rather talk about the craps, the giant things that you need to watch out for. And the first piece, and this is a learned lesson for myself and for so many others. Number one, these are in no particular order, folks. These are just the order in which I put them. Number one is we believe that people get out of production too quickly. So if you're taking notes, and I encourage you to do so, number one of the mistakes to avoid as a realtor is getting out of production too quickly. It is glorified. It is made to be so sexy to get yourself out of production. Who doesn't want to sit idly by and have a bunch of other people bring in paychecks for them? It sounds tempting. It sounds really cool. Holy cow. So many people fail and financially get backhanded in the most aggressive of ways when they choose to get themselves out of production. Let me tell you my story, because back in 2013 and 2014, I was building my team. I was opening my brokerage. I was, in fact, rebuilding from some mistakes I had made. I was with a previous brokerage. I got kicked out, kicked to the curb, and I had to rebuild. I was working 100-hour weeks and grinding away. And the goal was to get out of production. On October 28th, 2014, I got out of production. I was doing 150 transactions a year in 2013 and 150 in 2014 before I got out of production. They were all sphere and builder earned. These were all things that I had worked really hard at and had a pretty powerful, awesome reputation in the community. And then when my daughter was born, my firstborn, Finley, she's almost 8 now. Oh my gosh, she's so cool. When she was born, I'm like, I'm going to be a full-time dad. Like not stay at home, but like I need to make sure I'm not giving my family my leftovers. And that was not a mistake. That was absolutely the right choice to make. However, I took all my sphere business, all my builder business, and I gave it to everybody else on my team. Like the end of Mean Girls, right? When Katie Herring is throwing a little piece of the crown out to everybody, I was throwing a little piece of my crown or the things that I had earned to everybody on my team. And most of them aren't with me anymore. And when I handed off the transaction, I unintentionally handed off the relationship. And I look back, gang, and this one burns a little bit because with that much personal production, even in Fargo, North Dakota, where the average sales price is still today under $300,000. At that point, it was $75,000 or $100,000 less. It wasn't a huge average sales price, but I look back at all the commissions that I lost, not even counting the referral commission, but looking at the amount of sphere business that I do today that I refer off. And gang, I've lost over $2 million. Do I have your attention? Like so many people rush to get out of production and they lose out on some serious, serious cash. In addition to that, you throw your hopes and your dreams to untrained, unseasoned, newly licensed, lack of discipline kind of agents. Let's say you have 5 quality at-bats. 5, count them 5. You know that these 5 lead sources, these 5 really good appointments, they're all going to close if you close them. But if you throw those to a new agent, they're probably going to close 3. Honestly, probably 2 of them, right? They're going to close 2 of them. But in your head, you're like, man, I could sit back. And if each one of those is worth 10 grand in commission, I'm going to get $50,000 in commission. I'll pay the agent half of that. I'll give them a 50-50 split. The agent gets 50% and I get 50%. So I'm going to make 25 grand. They're going to make 25 grand. But realistically, you're going to make 10 and they're going to make 10. And what happens is they struggle mightily to convert that. They don't get their first paycheck for 4 to 6 months. They're scrambling, they're drowning, they're struggling in this business because they are on a full-time commission job. See, we're thinking like realtors who want to get everything at a no cost and expect that it's going to bring us a ton of value. That's like mistake number 1 through 20 for realtors, is we think that this is easy. Handing off a transaction, handing off a relationship is easy and somebody's going to crush it like we've crushed it. Gang, I've been doing this a while, and that is not the story. Mistake number 1 is getting yourself out of production too quickly. The biggest way to fix your financial problems and to build a strong, steady foundation is for you to stay in production. Now, that sounds exhausting, right? That sounds trepidatious for people, and folks want to have lots of money and a little bit of time dedicated to it, right? Hey, if I can magically look into each one of your businesses, what you would say to me is, Eric, I want to make more and I want to work less. Sound accurate, right? I think it's what we're all kind of hoping for. If it's not, speak up now or forever hold your peace. But I think most of us want to make more and work less. And so instead of rushing to get out of production, the goal is to build a micro team, right? We're talking about the things to avoid, but I do want to give some tips on what to actually do. And a micro team looks like this. A mega team is you have a whole bunch of agents and you're throwing at bats and opportunities to them. That's what 99% of real estate teams look like. But a micro team is this. It's a couple of admin that are leveraging you and taking all that exhaustion off your plate. Because remember, the goal is to work less and to make more, and actually hiring a couple of key people on salary to take all that minutia killing stuff off your plate so that you can be in top dollar income producing activities. You will actually make more and you'll work less. So you hire a couple of admin. After that, you hire a showing partner. This is a nurse to you being the doctor. This is an extension of you with all of these clients. They're nurturing and catering to, and yes, they're hunters. Yes, they're bringing in some other things, hopefully, but ultimately they're buying back, again, more of your time. And you put them on a salary, not on a full-time commission job. How big does that talent pool become if you put people on salary? How differently do you hire if you actually put somebody on salary? We hire agents quickly because we think that's going to solve our problems. And usually it creates more problems. But if you hire slowly and intentionally, whether it be an agent or a licensed agent or an admin, if you're really intentional with those steps, my gosh, do your stars change. I've seen this model over and over again. Let me share with you a gal that I have the privilege of coaching, and she joined me over at Real. Her name's Christy Horn. She's down in Texas. Christy down in Texas built this model after hearing of it. She went from scrambling, struggling. She had gotten out of production. She had ran from all those responsibilities. Financially, she was in a pinch. Her life was completely exhausted, and she had a bunch of agents that were giving her ulcers. I mean, not literal ulcers, but actual just pains in the behind. Christy moved to this model, to the micro team model. Her team is 4 or 5 people now. She'll sell 40 or 50 homes in a year. She'll work 16 hours a week, and she will net take home over $350,000. Okay. Would you work 16 hours a week for $350,000? And she's employing 3 great people that are doing awesome things in her life. This person's training and has a better chance to be an agent because they're under her tutelage. Her clients get better service and she wins too. It's the win, win, win. And so mistake number 1 to avoid is getting out of production. Christy herself went back into production. And when she went back into production, she actually solved her problems because instead of thinking wide, she thought deep. Please write down deep, comma, then wide. Some of you are giggling and snickering because you have childish minds. I too have been there. Deep, then wide is the move on how to prevent this. Yes, you want to get out of production. You want to have more money and less work to do. Going deep, then wide allows you that opportunity to do so. The number 2, write this down. The number 2 mistake to avoid as a realtor is by buying your way to the top. Holy cow. I see a lot of people making mistakes when it comes to how they spend their money. And this one is no joke. I think earning your way to the top is far better than buying your way to the top. Because when you earn your way to the top, it's on the other side of time, right? You either use time or money as your resource. Some of you use both, right? And I mean, I think all of us use both, but which one is going to take more? For me, in this phase of my life, I will rather lean on money than I will on time. But when I was starting out, I built a foundation on my own grinding personal production of not buying a lead and converting it. That does take a skill, but earning a lead, it takes a longer time. Earning somebody who's interested in buying or selling and earning their business, that likelihood of them being a client for forever is that much greater. See, here's how you hold your money responsible. Please write these down. These are my guidelines for money. We're going to cover this in another section. But you have 3 sections that you need to pay attention to. The first is cost of goods sold. Those are the commissions that you pay to any agent, including yourself, and the commissions that you're paying to the brokerage that you're at. That's the first category. If you get $1, a percent of that goes to cost of goods sold. The next section are your expenses, and your expenses are fixed costs. Here's the 3 categories of expenses that I encourage you to write down. Salaries, number 1. Even if you're paying outside contractors to do your marketing or to do your transaction coordinating, I would still put that expense under these fixed expenses of salary. Number 2 is lead gen and marketing. Okay, lead gen and marketing has a large proportion of this share, right? And I'm going to give you these exact percentages in a moment. Number 3, the final is overhead. This is your office rent and your insurance and your cell phone and all these other things. All of these expenses in total should never exceed 35%. In fact, if you can get that down to 30 or 25%, you're in sweet Cashville, USA, or Canada. I'm sure there's some Canadians watching also. So that's where you have to be cognizant of this, gang, is cost of goods sold should be 40-ish%, right? You're going to pay a little more on a buy side than you are on a listing. You shouldn't overpay on commissions, but you should be paying, whether you're paying yourself or another agent, you should be paying yourself on every transaction. And then salaries include your salary, and then it includes the salaries of admin, and it includes the salaries of marketers, and it includes the lead generation expenses of buying leads. And I think if we're to break this down, and remember I said 35% should be your expenses, 35. If that's the case, I'd say roughly a third of it goes towards salaries, a third of it goes towards marketing and lead gen, and a third of it goes towards overhead. So if you're doing that math, it's like 11.66% or so for each of those. Let's round up and say 12%. Okay. You're at 12% for each of those. And that is if you make $100,000 in commission for the year, $12,000 should be going towards salaries, and $12,000 should be going towards your lead gen, and $12,000 should be going towards overhead. That's the most you should ever spend. In fact, you should be spending less than that, because if you spend your way to the top, you're immediately going to be caught in this, oh crap, the only way I'm going to make more money is if I sell more houses. And that is a losing proposition, gang. Your final profit margin, if you do that math, your final profit margin should always strive to be 25%. Now, here's the great news is that you'll get paid a salary, you'll get paid a commission, but that 25% profit margin is your business profit. And if you try to buy your way to the top, mistake number 2 of realtors is buying their way to the top. If you try to buy your way to the top, you will be in a losing battle. No way about it. Number 3, the number 3 thing to avoid as a realtor, the mistakes to avoid. Number 1 is getting out of production too quickly. Number 2 is buying your way to the top. And number 3 are no standards. This word standard feels gross for people. Imagine you have a bar in which everybody always has to be above. The world has to exist above this bar. A standard says you cannot fall underneath this standard. See, a standard without a consequence for when you fall under here, a standard without a consequence is merely a suggestion. Please write that down. A standard without a consequence is merely a suggestion. And what I don't want for you all that are watching is to say, all right, Erik, I I don't have many standards, or even if so, I don't have any consequences for it. That cockamamie, right? I've never said cockamamie before in my life, but it felt good. That is such a bad idea to not have any standards, because standards and consequences will define your organization. Let me give you an example. There are two types of standards. Please write this down. Standards number one are performance-based standards. Okay. The performance-based standards I'm speaking of would be the number of hours you're lead genning, the number of contacts you're making, the number of dials you're doing, the number of conversations you're having, the number of buyers and sellers you're contracting. You can list standard after standard after standard to say, hey, after a couple of months of you gaining your momentum, you need to be above this line at all times. This, gang, is a blueprint for success. Beyond anything you've seen before, standards are a blueprint for success, saying, hey, I actually know what I'm talking about. And if you follow this blueprint, you will get success. That's the first kind of standard that we have to pay attention to, are production-based and time-based standards. The second kind of standard are cultural standards. And I want to be really clear with you. I hear that word culture thrown around a lot, and I think it's maybe the most watered down word in our industry outside of leadership. And for me, I love leadership and I love culture, but I understand that they're watered down because they're not clearly defined. I don't believe that culture means being nice. A lot of people say we have a great culture because everybody's really nice. I'm talking about a culture of how people show up and how they agree to have hard conversations and how they agree to go directly to the source and how they agree to not gossip and how they agree to show up early and stay late and how they agree to play for the person next to them. That's culture. And so, yes, you need production-based and performance-based standards that are agreed upon by everybody. And in addition to that, you need standards of how you act and how you treat one another. I promise you, the person that violates the cultural standards will make you more crazy than the person that falls below the performance standards. Think about that person that you've worked with before that violates the unwritten, unspoken cultural rules of your organization. They breed mistrust and contempt, and they don't do anything good for your organization. But there's no rules around it. There's no standards, because if you have a standard, that means you have to have a consequence. So please, here's your homework. Write this down. What you need to do is, with your organization, you need to together create standards and consequences. Consequences don't mean immediate firing, but it means you maybe have a performance improvement plan or the end goal of what has to change. If we have somebody that's falling short, we can't just leave them be and hope that they figure it out. We instead need to meet them where they're at and help to get them to where they need to be. So I hope you take that homework seriously, because the creation of standards will change the direction of your business. We're talking about 8 mistakes to avoid as a realtor. We have covered 3 of the 8. Number 1, getting out of production too quickly. Number 2, buying your way to the top. Number 3, no standards. And number 4, as we were alluding to before, doing your numbers incorrectly. The numbers I'm talking about are how you pay yourself. So write out, do your numbers incorrectly, and then in parentheses, put how to pay yourself. Be very, very clear on this, because most realtors get this wrong. You need to pay yourself 3 ways as a realtor. You pay yourself, number 1, as a producer. Number 2, as a salaried employee. And number 3, as a business owner. Again, producer, employee, business owner, and you pay yourself in these 3 buckets. Let's talk about what to pay yourself for commission. What would you pay an agent on your team? If you're a solo agent, what would you pay an agent? Because that's actually the commission you should be paying yourself for the production that you do. I've seen people boast these numbers of like, we're 50 or 60 or 70% profitable. And no way on God's green earth is any business 50, 60 or 70% profitable, because what they're doing is they're taking all of their commission and they're feeding it to the business. You have to begin with the end in mind. And the end in mind means I'm not in production. I'm simply a business owner. Or maybe I'm also a C-level executive for the company. And I need to create these things in the beginning so that in the end, my books read right. I have a coaching client who will go who I will not name because their books are pretty gross. He came to me boasting of all the money that he made last year. And I looked at his books and then we did them right. And when we paid him the commission that he was rightfully owed, he was funding his team to the tune of $150,000 a year. His own personal commission was being used to fund the team. You want to talk about a bad losing venture. It means that if you're trying to employ other people, not for your own personal leverage, but other agents, if you're trying to employ all these people and you're losing an extra $150,000 a year, it's a god awful business. And some of you have no idea how terrible your business actually is right now because you're not paying yourself right. So the first thing to do is to pay yourself just like you would pay any other agent on your team. That literally means if there's a $10,000 commission check that comes in, if your buyer side is a 40% cut, you take 40% of that check and you put it in your personal savings or you put it in your personal checking account. The other $6,000 goes towards the business. Okay. So if you're on a 40-60 split, 40% of it goes to you personally, comes out of your business account. The other 60% remains with the business. The second way to pay yourself is a salary. If you are in the earlier stages of a business, if it's you and maybe one or two admin, you don't have anybody else at this point, you should be paying yourself a small salary, not a big salary, but a small salary. You know, $5,000, $8,000, something like that, 10 grand, because you're working on the business some. You're mostly working in the business, but you're working on the business. And if you ever had to replace yourself for that work that's going on the business, you have to be able to save that salary and you have to be able to give that to the next person. Remember, begin with the end in mind. And so get in the habit very early of paying yourself a salary for being a C-level executive. You're the CEO or the COO of your business and you need to pay yourself accordingly. Finally, that comes to business ownership. That's the third bucket that you're paying yourself in. And if you're going to pay yourself in business ownership, the cash that you should have and the goal, the target should be 25%. Now, full transparency, I don't run a 25% business because very, very early on, I made the conscious choice to pay my agents as much as I possibly could. And it comes with some upsides. It comes with some downsides. I'm not here to tell you what commissions to pay, but I'm telling you the lifestyle that I chose is my target margin is a 15% because I'm paying my agents a higher commission split. But I'm also making sure that we're factoring in everything else through our decision making. And as we move forward with this, I feel good about the business that I have. You know, I'd rather have 15% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape. And that's what I'm gunning for, is I'm gunning for watermelon style. Oh, by the way, how delicious is watermelon? I had a great watermelon like 2 days ago. Oh, nothing says summer and tasty fruit like watermelon. That's called a sidebar, everybody. That's how easily I get distracted, and I can't be the only ADD one here. With that being said, we are talking about 8 mistakes to avoid as a realtor. We are on number 5. Number 4 was doing your numbers incorrectly. Number 5 is bad past client care. Bad past client care. NAR sends out surveys all the time to people who have worked with realtors like you and me, and they have interviewed, surveyed, and questioned to say, how likely are you to use your realtor again? And the answer ranges between 70 and 80% traditionally. And yet, most don't. See, we spend the majority of our time chasing down have-not-mets instead of nurturing the mets that we already have. To my team just yesterday, I said, what would it look like if we stopped spending any money on Zillow whatsoever, and we instead took all that cash, it's a lot of cash, we took all that cash and we used it to invest in our past clients, throwing parties, giving gifts, knocking on their door, bringing items of value, celebrating them, honoring them, shifting our money instead of focusing on people that we're trying to earn new business from. Let's take care of the people that already know, like, and trust us. And see, I think a lot of us right now don't have a great system for our past clients. So homework assignment number 2 would be this: create a system for your past clients. This system should involve 3 things. Number 1, events. Events can be large, events can be small, but the purpose of an event is to say, you are somebody that I care about and I see you, I value you. You matter. It's the purpose of those events. There's a number of touches that come with that, and it's all these great, warm, fuzzy feelings. So that's number one, is events. Number two, I would put as birthdays and house anniversaries. These are two landmark moments in which we should make people feel really special. What doesn't make somebody feel special is if you post on their wall on Facebook when it's their birthday. It just doesn't hack it. This is a personalized, customized game. And if you're going to win it, you have to play it well. The biggest mistake you can make with your past clients is to automate your touches on them. You can create a system that reminds you, but the reach out should actually be you in every situation. Trust me, as a guy who's lost millions of dollars by not doing this, this is a blind spot for most of us. So we talked about events. We talked about house anniversaries and birthdays. And the third piece that I would encourage you to do would be gratitude. If I called you and said, hey, Joe Schwartzbauer, I just wanted to tell you, man, I'm really thankful for you. I think you're awesome. That's it. That's the whole call. That's all you need to do for your past clients, is to say, I was thinking about you. I think you're awesome. You matter. Or I would say, hey, Doris, man, you have been such an important part in my life. You really, really invested in me. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. See, gratitude should be specific. It should be poignant. It should be this thing in which we pour and ooze out. I promise you, those that are the most grateful will receive the most opportunities and at-bats, because gratitude is this magic key that makes people feel unbelievable. So those are the three things you should be doing at minimum for your bad past client care to try to make this an actual automated, routinized thing that you show up and do every day. The 8 mistakes to avoid as a realtor, here's where we've been, is number 1, getting out of production too quickly. Number 2, buying your way to the top. Number 3, no standards. Number 4, doing your numbers incorrectly. Number 5, bad past client care. And here we land on number 6, hiring too quickly. Ooh, I've been there. I have made hundreds of hires in my lifetime now. And the ones that I hired quickly were oftentimes the ones that fizzled the quickest. It's interesting. I found myself on stage at an event a couple of months ago, and there were 4 coaches, myself and 3 others, that were giving insight and predictability into this industry. And one of the people from the crowd, there's about 1,000 people there, one of the people in the crowd raised their hand and they said, how do you prevent making a bad hire? And one of the coach's responses was very different than mine. And he had said, you can't, you don't know. People are going to fill you with bull crap anyways. So you move quickly. If they're no good, you just get rid of them. And I heard that, gang, and I died a little bit inside. How do you know that your wife is going to be the right one for you? Well, you move slow and you meet her family and you find out about her and you take your time, because marriage is a big deal. I'm not going to marry somebody and get divorced in a month. That's just not the world that I want to live in. And I'm not going to do that to people on my team either. I think there are things in the hiring process by following a really great procedure. We have a 9-step hiring process. Check out our YouTube channel. We have stuff in there about our hiring process, because it's really, really valuable things that we put out there. I think that we go way too fast when it comes to hiring people. And we don't seek out ways in which to lead them. And we don't seek out these things that we need to find out. And yes, do I think people are wearing their Sunday best when it comes to an interview? I do. But I think that a really great, strategic, slow-moving question asker is going to find out many more layers to the onion than just the outside that they give you. And so please do not make the mistake of going too fast. I think that the suggestion from that other coach is a destructive suggestion. That's not how I choose to treat people. I want to treat people like this is a really big deal and they're uprooting their life to come and work with me, and they're making a major sacrifice. And so I need to make the same sacrifice. I need to slow down, because I have never known something magnificent to be built by really quick hires. I'd love for you to show me an example when the Taj Mahal wasn't built by one-armed men. The Sears Tower wasn't built by the fastest and the cheapest. They were built by the ones that were the most researched and the best, right? we have to do our due diligence. We have to do our research to make sure that we don't hire too dang fast. Joe Schwartzbauer typed in that he loves me. I love you. Look at this little bromance here. I hope everybody appreciates that sweet little bromance. We only have 2 left though, gang. 8 mistakes to avoid as a realtor. Number 7 is slow to hire. You think that's ironic? I just said slow down in your hiring, but the mistake that people make, number 7, is you are slow to hire. Let's go back 10 years. In fact, it was 11 years now, 11 years almost to the day. I was brand new in real estate as a full-time agent. I was part-time for like 5 years, but I was brand new. I ended up in my first year of full-time real estate in 2011. I sold 52 houses, all for my sphere and open houses business that I had earned. And I was hustling. In May, I was at graduation open houses. My former life, I was doing youth ministry. And so I got to be really connected with high school students and middle school students. And at that time, I was going to my 95th graduation open house, eating more pulled pork sandwiches and taco in a bag than I ever could. By the way, it's taco in a bag. It's not a walking taco. I want to be very clear on that. That's a hill I'll die on. With that being said, I ran into a gal named Mariah. Mariah was a former gal in my youth group, and she was sweet. She was home from Iowa State. I live in Fargo. She was home from Iowa State. And in that time, she's like, hey, I'm looking for summer work. And I'm like, oh, I could really use somebody. And I could have used somebody 3 months earlier, but I waited until my pain got so severe that I brought her in, and I brought her in way too quick. I didn't set her up for success. I handed off everything to her. And I just had her work on like projects instead of actually working on helping me to breathe. I did it all wrong. I see myself 11 years ago, and I was scared to death of bringing her on at $10 an hour. Gang, that's $200 a week at $20 an hour. In the entire summer, that was $3,000 roughly that I was going to pay her. $3,000. And I was scared to death. Like, how in the world am I going to do this? So I was slow to hire. I was slow to make her full-time. Now I spend $3,000 a day. I spend more than that. To run my business is almost $250,000 a month in money that I'm risking. It is wild, because in the early days, I was afraid of hiring. I was slow to hire because we think that we are best. There are 2 reasons, please write these down, 2 reasons why you're going to be slow to hire. Number 1 is ego. We think that we are the best at everything that we do, and nobody can do it like us, and our clients will only work with us. We're the only ones that really matter. But when I go to the doctor, I don't mind that somebody else checks me in, and that somebody checks my vitals, and that somebody does the questioning. I go because I trust my doctor, even though he or she has a team of really great talent around them. But our ego gets in the way, and we're slow to hire. It's really dangerous. The other reason why we're slow to hire is not because of ego. It's because of fear. Can I afford this person? Do I know how to lead them? Do I have the time to train them? Right? Does that sound familiar? My guess is that sounds familiar for some of you is do we have the capacity to take on somebody else? The responsibility of somebody else is scary AF. It's a big deal. We worry so much about, can we take somebody on, and is this going to work out? So let me give you a blueprint to solve this. If you have 4 months of operating expenses saved up, if this person's salary is, say, $3,500 a month, that means you got to have at least 14 grand in savings. You should have 4 months of your business expenses and 4 months of your personal expenses all in savings. See, don't go at this all nimbly bimbly. Don't go at this all irresponsibly. Go at this with a plan. 4 months. 4 months of personal and business expenses. Figure out, remember, you have your salaries, you have your overhead, and you have your lead gen and marketing expenses. Figure out what all those are and multiply it by 4 when you're adding this new leverage piece into your world. Then when you have enough saved up, or at least you're getting really close, because the hiring process takes a long time. When you see that you're moving in that direction, start the hiring process. You need to start it long before you actually need it. And here's the worst thing that happens is you're going to learn a lot about what you're looking for. You're going to learn about who's looking for jobs, and you never have to hire the people that apply. So get that wheel rolling quickly and don't wait. Those of you who are we all are on different volumes because we're in different markets with different price points. But here would be my advice. If you are averaging 20 to 30 transactions a year, you are ready to bring on leverage. Your growth is limited because you don't have enough leverage. You can actually hire somebody, invest in them. You'll make more money and you'll work less. It's magical. It's so much fun. And that's why we continue to make these hires and these strategic placement of people. It is everything in our business. Okay. We have covered 7. Here's the 7 we've covered for the 8 mistakes to avoid as a realtor. Number 1, getting out of production too quickly. Number 2, buying your way to the top. Number 3, no standards. Number 4, doing your numbers incorrectly. Number 5, bad past client care. Number 6, hiring too quickly. Number 7, slow to fire. And number 8, this might be my favorite. I mean, I like them all, right? I came up with a list, so I like them all. But number 8, failure to plant seeds for the long game. Number 8, failure to plant seeds for the long game. Gang, there's 4 lead sources and only 4 types of lead sources. Let's break these down for you. Please write these down. Number 1 is PCSOI, past client and sphere of influence. These are people that know, like, and trust you. Number 2, low-hanging fruit. These are expensive lead sources. I'm talking HomeLight or Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia. These are expensive portal leads that are going to cost you either a high dollar amount or they're going to take 25 to 35% of the commission. Number 3, long-term nurtures. These are pay-per-click and forced registration leads. These are neighborhood farming. These are all these different types of Facebook leads and that sort. These are things that aren't going to likely convert at first glance. Number 4 is reputation. Reputation would be referrals, things like radio, TV. Those are pretty expensive mediums, but they can be successful in the right markets. You have referrals. You have reputation leads that would specifically revolve around reviews. Man, this review game is big, right? If you go to Amazon, what decision are you going to make on what to buy? It's the thing that has the best reviews and is usually priced well, right? So I bring all these 4 up because what we're talking about is you're not thinking long-term enough. And the 2 that I want to talk about, you'd think I'd talk about past clients and sphere of influence, but I already did. So let's talk about this long-term game of long-term nurtures and reputation. Those low-hanging fruit leads, gang, on average, those convert, meaning from the time in which they hit your inbox or your phone until when they close, between 120 and 180 days on average. It's not a lot of time. You spend a lot to get a quick transaction. But I had a quick lunch right before I got on this webinar. It was good while it went down, but it doesn't sit well right now. The things that are quick do not mean the things that are best. And these long-term nurtures, when done right, will take on average about 600 to 640 days to close. Now, some will close much quicker. But if we want to win long-term, we need to pay attention to where we're spending our dollars and instead where we're building our nurturing. Having a buttoned up nurture plan is essential. Now at Hatch Coaching, and this is not meant to be a sales pitch, but maybe it is. I don't know. We have some really great lead nurturing plans and systems that are out there. It's like mowing the lawn and trying to gather everything that you cut, but you don't have a bag over your mower. And so instead it blows everywhere. If you have the actual bag, you can collect everything that you have chopped up. And that's what you need to do with your lead conversion is you need to make sure that you are nurturing it well. And the other piece is this reputation game. And I want to speak specifically of social media. See, people are watching right now. People are paying attention to what you're doing, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Those would be the big 4 that I would speak of. And you're developing a reputation. Whether you know it or not, people have a belief of who you are. Let's take those that knew you from high school and the kids you grew up with and your crazy aunt that's out there. Let's take all those people off the table. Instead, I think that there's people who are developing a reputation about who you are or who you are not based upon your social media posts. There's got to be a better way than what you're doing right now, because your goal, please write this down. Your goal should be mind share before it's ever market share. If you're to earn the reputation of people, if you're to be front of mind, your goal should have to have the highest mind share available. See, mind share changes everything. Mind share means that you are the one that they think of when they think of real estate, or when they think of, hey, this person made me feel a certain way. So with that, you should work on devising a plan on how to go and capture more mind share. Because again, business, we're going to bookend this here. Business earned is far better than business bought. And so if you can earn people's business by your involvement in the community, by your involvement on social media, and by posting consistently, I'll tell you this, none of you are posting enough to capture the mind share that you're looking for, myself included. I'm posting about 100 times a week across all the different platforms. Sometimes the same stuff, I'm regurgitating it in different places, but 100 times a week is a lot, right? We're talking about 15 times a day across all these different platforms. And that is crazy, but I am gunning for mind share because I intend on earning a plethora of business. So with that, those are the 8 mistakes that we make. I want those of you that are watching live, there's a good handful of you right now. Those of you that are watching live, throw questions or comments here in the chat box so I can see where your mind is at with all this. Maybe what has been your favorite one or your takeaway, or maybe something that I missed. Please add that in there because I do want to promo just a couple of things. Number one, I mentioned that Robbie has, my partner Robbie T, has built some really amazing things in terms of lead nurturing. It's like putting your lead nurturing on autopilot, and we got you for that. So I'm hoping that you can jump on that. I'll email out that link for you. Otherwise, folks watching on the replay, go to hatchcoaching.com and you will see all that we're doing there. The second thing, and Meredith says she loves the mindshare concept versus market share. Glad to hear you like that one. That's one of my favorites too, Meredith. Thanks for that. Second thing that I need to talk about is our SOP event. That stands for Standard Operating Procedures. We have an event coming up. It is just around the corner. We're looking at, boy, you think I'd have the date here. We are looking at a post that does not have the date. Son of a gun. Here it is. Event details. I just had to scroll down further. Way to go, Eric. Thursday, July 21st, an event featuring myself, my partner, Robbie T, and 3 of the brightest minds in real estate, Mike Novak, Colton Whitney, Rachel Novak. We are diving in to talk about how to work this PCSOI that I covered, buyer agent mastery, agent attraction and onboarding, converting leads, listing mastery, and growing your business. All these things and more are going to be featured at this SOP event. I'm popping it here into the chat box for those of you that are watching live. Click on this link right now. We are going to send out a discount code as well. We're going to get you some cash back in your pocket so you don't have to pay retail. Although if you wanted to, I don't complain about that. So these SOP events are huge. We have a big event coming up in September in Fargo. It's our coaching summit. This is going to sell out here in the next 30 to 45 days. And so please don't hesitate to sign up for this. It is the event of the year. With that being said, sign up for the SOP event, sign up for Robbie's stuff, sign up to see you in Fargo. Or if you don't want to do any of that and you just want to keep watching our free content, we're going to keep throwing that at you too, because we'd rather earn business than buy business. So with that being said, my name is Erik Hatch of Hatch Realty and Hatch Coaching, brokered by Real, here in Fargo, North Dakota. God bless you. It's been a joyride. We'll talk soon.